Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am B-Don, joined by the man across me, the good-looking, the owner of Razzball, the man who knows all. He tells all. Great. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How's it going, B Don?
It's going well. I mean, we had our first weekend of baseball. The weather was awesome down here, so I got to play some golf as well. So I mean, it was about as good of a weekend as one could ask for in the
Let,
spring.
let me ask you something, B Don. Serious
Yeah.
question. Do you ever get out on the old links and wish there was a pitch clock?
Definitely. I definitely wish that there was a pitch clock in golf. There are some very slow, leisurely golfers out there.
Let me ask you. Hey,
Uh,
hey, B Don. Hey, B Don. Let me ask you something. You're on the tee, right? And you got in the corner of your eye, there's a countdown clock going on. Does that rattle you, or does that get you ready to go?
for me, it really wouldn't matter. I'm on the fast side, so I'm on the mound, ready to go, Gray. I just like let me go, let me get out of my way. I'm not a time taker, so I'm not a closer. I'm not any
Uh,
of the closers who take 45 seconds a pitch.
I will say this about the pitch clock. So first of all, I love it. I know you hate it because
I
you're an
can't
old,
stand
you're
it.
you're an old man.
I'm
But
I'm at
anyway,
least
I love
85
it.
years old.
Yeah, okay, yeah. This is my podcast. Welcome to it. No, seriously though, I love the pitch clock. I love it. All right. The one little tweak I would probably do is I'd probably either extend it like maybe 5 seconds later in the ninth inning, or just lose it completely in the ninth inning. Like I feel like things get a little bit rushed when you feel like the game is on the line and you kind of want to savor the moment a little bit. And I think this will even become even more prevalent when games really start to matter in like October. So I don't think it's like that big of a deal in the regular season, but I do think there could be some tweaking done in the ninth inning with the pitch clock. But otherwise, I mean, I'm like, give me all the greenies you got in your pocket. I'm ready to do speed and go, man. I love it, bro. I love it. I'm like so pumped up. I was watching this weekend baseball. I was watching the Mets. I was watching Kodai Senga, who we'll talk about in a little bit, and Cougs was there, and she was folding clothes, and she's like, "Wow, baseball's gotten so fast." I was like, "I know, right? It's got like a sense of purpose." There's like, I mean, and obviously, I love baseball. I've loved it even when it didn't have a pitch clock, but it does feel like there's some sort of like there's a reason for being. There's like something going, like there's some real like tension that is like, well, you better get up there and you better be ready to go. And like, I mean, I keep thinking of the Mike Tyson quote. It's like, until you get punched, you don't know how you're going to react until you're punched in the mouth. And it's like the pitch clock sort of does that in a way that's like, you don't know how you're going to react. Well, you better figure it out because the ball's coming. It's like the game is moving. You can't like go and step out of the box and just like, scratch your crotch for 20 seconds while you think about what the pitcher's going to do on the next pitch. Like you can't do that anymore. And I personally, I kind of love it, man. I'm sorry. I know we're in disagreement, and I hope we can get through this together. But
I mean, it doesn't really matter what I say because baseball's not listening to me. They're not going to change what they're doing because of what I say. But as a longtime baseball fan, there's some gamesmanship that I feel like we're losing with the pitch clock. Like we're losing the pitcher stepping off the mound, the batter taking a step out. We're losing the catchers calling the game. We're losing a little bit of the mental part and some of the gamesmanship to baseball, all to save 25 minutes off the top. Like
but isn't
I
it
don't
though? Like
know.
it's like chess versus speed chess. Like there's still gamesmanship and there's still strategy. It's just like you got to be doing amphetamines to really keep up with it, right?
I suppose. I mean, we're just going to disagree on this one. I just don't like it. I think that this is a solution for a problem that really like was in the minority. Like there's 5% of pitchers who take too long. And so we made a league-wide rule for 5% of pitchers. Like it just seems excessive for what I like. I agree. Like we need to probably in the ninth inning adjust it. I think across the game you can kind of adjust it just a little bit longer. Like the Devers one was so like he stepped out of the box for half a second, pulled his sleeve down, stepped back in the box, and they're like, "No, that's a strike. You're out." It just seemed a little bit too fast for me. I feel like if you move it back 5-7 seconds, I think you get rid of even my complaining. Like it just seems like there's a lot being taken out of the game from a gamesmanship point of view. And you add that with like the base check, like the delays.
Before you'd have a batter step out of the box and adjust his sleeve, and now you have a team of seamstresses working together with the players and together with the pitch clock and trying to get the sleeves just right. Beaton, come on! Don't you see? This is a strategy.
No, I don't.
This is now about inseams and sewing and a sewing machine. It's like now we have all different elements. You have the equipment manager talking with the players and being like, wait, your sleeve hangs wrong. We have to get you just right in that shirt in order to get in the batter's box on time.
Yeah, so because if you've never done anything with a brace, it definitely stays in place.
A little bit. No, I hear you. It's a little bit like, but what I say to that is like if you look at like the countdown, not the countdown, the shot clock. I'm obviously a big basketball fan, but if you look at the shot clock, it's like if a guy's shoes come untied, you call a timeout or you deal with it. It's like they don't say like, well, the shot clock, man, that made him trip over his shoelaces. They really should do something about that shot. It's like, no, it's like that's a part of the game. And now the pitch clock's a part of the game. So, goodbye,
Or other people involved on the team that can pick up his slack while he ties his shoes. There's nobody in baseball. If you have to tie your shoes now, you have to use your one timeout. Like, it's just, it's common sense. Like, if you need to tie a shoe, if you need to pull up a race, like, you do it. And the pitch clock and the shot clock are two completely separate issues. Like, if you remove the shot clock from basketball, that game changes completely. Like, it changes 100%. If you watched a high school basketball game where they score like 10-5, it changes. Like, it's different. It's not that we're not even in the same ballpark as the shot clock. Like,
I don't watch basketball.
I know you don't watch any other sports. It's fine, Gray. I mean, it's not like your site has like other sports that supports or anything.
I'm just saying from a completely selfish point of view. It's nice to be able to watch games and have them over in like 2.5 hours.
I think there's also a standpoint of like, I'm not married. I have no kids. I really have like outside of work and the stuff I do for this and my golf addiction, I really have no responsibility. So like, I don't really give a crap if a game takes 3.5 hours. If you have a kid, I mean, maybe you wanted it done in 2.5. I get it. And if you're at the ballpark, I could see how it would be a benefit. Like if the game starts at 8, you don't want to be there till midnight. You can get home at 11. I get it in the live sense, but like how many live games does anybody go to that like even people who have season tickets aren't going to every games? And most people go to like 5, 1.
I know. Pete on,
let's move past.
No, you'll be. I mean, part. I feel like you're gonna you'll have other things you're wrong about. Just let this be one of them.
We can go on. Let's talk about what it's actually changing though. Let's talk about the changes that have happened. I mean, the first and I think most obvious one is obviously stolen bases. Last year, John Birdie had 41 as the leader. So far in 4 days, Jorge Mateo already has 4. I mean,
he won.
I mean, is this like the speed version of the juiced ball? Like when we get like we used to be like 25 homers in the last round. Who cares? We can get that everywhere. Now, is it going to be like everybody steals 20 bases?
Right. Yeah. No. I do think that there is something to the steals are out of control, man.
It's absolutely absurd.
The steals are absurd. I mean, again, I like chaos just in general. So I'm like, I like it. I mean, I'm enjoying the games. I think it's absolutely nuts though. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think it's gonna happen. Like, I honestly don't think it's going to happen because I think a lot of people are enjoying the chaos like I am. So I don't think it's going to change, but I do think you probably should go back to like you should be able to do more pickoff moves. Like, this is crazy that like if you throw over once, you're essentially you're done for.
You just give him the base. Like, if it's Trey Turner's on first base, he's just taking it.
I mean, the funniest thing was in the first game of the season, or the first steal even, Ronald Acuna Jr. was on first, and Corbin threw over once, and then he threw over a second time, and Acuna went back to the base, and he was like, throwing his hands up to the ump, like, you can't throw over twice. And the ump's like, no, you can throw over twice. That's it. Like that, like the players didn't even know at that point, like the rule. So it's like, okay. I mean, players have been playing this game for, their entire lives, and they don't know the rules.
Well, the rules just changed. Don't bring the whole thing.
I understand, but it's just kind of funny that like professional athletes don't know the rules of their own game. But anyway, so at that point he realized that it was two because the ump told him. So then obviously he stole. So it's like you're kind of limited to one off because if you go to the second, you're just basically done. You're completely ruined as a pitcher if you throw over two times. Like, there is no throwing over two times. Like, you can legally throw over two times, but the second time you throw over, the guy's going to be like, well, you can't throw over again, so I'm just going to take the next base.
You could be halfway up the baseline.
Exactly. But it's so funny too that like the rule is like you can throw over a third time, but you actually have to pick them off. It's like, okay, what's the chances of that? But anyway, I do think like there's just, I mean, steals are out of control, man. They are so out of control. No one anticipated this. I don't care whose projections you look at. There was no one thinking like there's going to be probably at least three to five players that steal like 50 plus bags, like 50 plus, and there's going to be a couple dozen who steal like 30 plus at least. I mean, there's so many steals. Like, you could see, like, I could see a scenario where like, I mean, like Juan Soto, we'll take him because he's not really necessarily a steals guy. I could see him stealing like 15 plus bags. Like, everyone is going to steal. Like, Goldschmidt, who's usually like around 20, like he could get to 25, 30. Like, steals are just like, you could basically, if you get on first, like if you walk or get a hit, like you could basically take second. Like, it's really like, it's basically like you're getting a double. And I think that like I enjoy it as a fan of the game. I think it's fun. I think it's kind of fun, but I do think it's probably a little out of control. Like, it's a little nuts when you're like, yeah, there could potentially be like Jorge Mateo could steal 90 bags. Potentially. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you hate it too because you hate all the.
Of course, I hate it, Gray. I mean, okay, so in regards to the pitch, so we have the pitch clock. They already know when the pitch has to go home. So on top of that, they can't throw over to check the runner more than twice. Like, I mean, if you step off the mound, that counts as one. That's an engagement. So if you step off the mound and throw over once, that's it. Or if your catcher calls timeout because he gets hitting the balls with a pitch, that's an engagement. That can't throw over again. It's just, I don't like it, Gray, and I'm going to continue to not like it. It is, look, I will say it is fun. Like, if your only goal is to have more fun, like them running all over the place it's fun. Do I think it's good baseball? Not necessarily. But it's the way that it seems like it's going. And in regards to the increase, I have
This
some.
is probably the. I mean, it's probably like the throw over, like the steals, like how what was it, 1969 when they lowered the mound, like the. I think I think that this could be the biggest change we see in baseball, like the steals. Like if they don't somehow ramp it back, there's a potential for the steals being like, bigger, like a bigger change in baseball than we've seen in 45 years. Like
Yeah.
it's like bigger than the DH even. Like this is like I mean this changes the game completely. Like if you were to redo watching the actual games and looking at all the projections, like if you were to redo your projections, you'd have to add at least 10 steals to literally everyone except for like the slowest of the slow. Like it's not going to probably change Vogelback, but I could see even like Pete Alonso stealing like 5 to 7 bags this year. It's because it's like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, we just have to look at it a little bit differently right now. And just the numbers real quick. It's been 4 days. There's been 70 stolen bases in 4 days versus 29 last year. And I would say that there's two areas this is affecting. It's stolen bases and it's BABIP, which is the shift, not the pitch clock. Well, maybe the pitch clock to some extent, but the shift as well. BABIP this year is 301. BABIP last year was 276. That has raised batting average from 230 last year to 245. Everything else is pretty much in line with what we've seen. Like the runs and RBIs are within 10 of each other. The plate appearances are fairly in line. They're one home run different. Home run the fly ball is 0.6% different. Like there's very little that's changed outside of stolen bases and then the batting average. So those are the two things I think that we're seeing come up. And again, if we could go back and redo projections, I think both those things probably come up, assuming the rules stay in place as they are currently.
Yeah. Like I think in a best case scenario, it would be like the steals would go up like maybe 5%, not you know
2.2 times,
two,
two and a half
yeah,
times.
not 200%. I would think like if the top speed guys in the league, like if they were to have like maybe an extra 5 steals on the year, like things would have been appropriately fixed. But I think that you're going to see guys like go from like 40 steal guys to become 70 plus steal guys, and that's just like it's as goofy as like when McGuire and Sosa were hitting 70 home runs every year. It's like something's off,
When
like
Ketel Marte was hitting
it's
40.
obvious. It shouldn't take 15 years for them to fix it because it's obviously wrong. But again, I don't think anything's going to get changed. I think this is what we're going to see. Like, I don't have any faith in like Manfred and the commissioner's office changing things to properly, adjust for the changes that they've made. Like, I just don't see it. Like, now that they did the pitch clock, probably you should have as many pickoffs as you need. Unfortunately, that sort of defeats the purpose of the pitch clock a little bit when there's runners on, but you can't have a situation where the runners are just running at their free will. Like it's like whenever they want to steal, they steal.
Yeah. I think honestly
it's not even close. I mean, it's like goofy. It's gone so far the other way,
I think adding the pitch clock, the limited pickoffs, and the bigger bases all at one time has all combined to give us this like superstorm of stolen bases. And I think it was just too much all at once. Like if you kind of layer it in a little bit, maybe it slowly ticks up and ramps up. But adding it all in, I think it's just we're going into the speed era. I guess would you target more stolen bases, or do you just think like whoever you had is just going to steal more? So to some extent, it's just kind of going to fix itself unless you didn't have any stolen bases.
Well, no, I think you're no, actually someone in the comments today, I don't remember who it was, but someone asked a question like, I think it was something, I don't even know the names now, but it was something like, do you want Trevor Larnach on your bench or Jorge Mateo on your bench? Should I be, they asked something like, should I be looking to possibly move power into my lineup when I have an extra spot, or should I be looking to move speed into my lineup? And I was like, absolutely go Mateo. I mean, you have to stay on top of speed at this point. Otherwise, like, you could fall back, like, especially like in head to head, it's its own beast. But in like a redraft 5x5, you could fall behind in speed real fast. Like if you don't have enough speed on your team, like you could fall 20 steals behind the leader in like a second. Like in like a week, you could be like, okay, so I guess I'm playing for second place in steals. Like there's, so I would definitely be like, I would be making sure I have enough speed on my teams. Like, because, there's going to be guys who obviously are going to steal and that's all they're going to do. And, the Sagnoff guys and like the Jorge Mateos, like, yeah, I mean, they're suddenly much more interesting to me. If I were re-ranking, I'd probably move Mateo up because I think you gotta have speed. You have to be able to contend in all categories. Like you shouldn't ever be punting any category. And, like you mentioned, homers per fly ball and homers in general are basically flat year over year. So, and speed is so far up. So if you're going to fall behind in speed, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to bring up is since the home runs have stayed static, like the home run number you already had in your mind at the draft room is still the same. That hasn't changed. But the stolen base number that you're looking for just went up by like 100. So you have to chase stolen bases if you didn't already have it as something you were going to address in the draft room. Random idea, Gray, before we move on to the last bit of news. I think we need to make the timed out pitches like a balk, or like, I know you don't understand this, but it might be a little easier for our listeners if they watch football, like a false start in football, where like if the quarterback gets it, he can just chuck it downfield and it doesn't matter because if it's picked off, it's coming back anyways. Same thing with a balk. Like if there's a balk called, he throws the pitch, the hitter can have free reign. He can swing. If he gets an out, they just reset. I kind of like that idea for the timed out pitches if we're just going to go fun, because then you get hitters just wailing at these timed out pitches and you get just massive.
Can't though. Yeah, but you can't do that because
why? Because it would change the game and make it more fun, Gray? I mean,
no, because it'd be dangerous because the guy is throwing 100-mile-per-hour ball and the hitter doesn't know what's going on. Like you
that's
can't
still
have
the same. I mean, that's still going to happen at the end of the time. Like the pitcher is either throwing it at the end of the pitch clock or they're holding it up and eating it. Like,
so you're basically not telling. So you're just not telling the hitter the pitch clock is essentially what you're saying.
No, I'm saying if the pitch clock runs out and the pitcher throws it,
right,
so it's a violation.
Right.
The hitter just gets the swing.
One. So the pitcher doesn't know one of the players.
No, they both still have ideas of the pitch. They both still see the pitch clock. But if the hitter watches the one turn zero and then the pitcher throws it,
so what are you going to have a buzzer go off when the guy
either a buzzer or you just monitor it. You just don't have the ref call it until afterwards.
You can't monitor the pitch clock while you're in the batter's box and
that's kind of what they're asking them to do right now, isn't it?
100-mile-per-hour. No, the ump calls. Ump says violation or whatever the ump says. I don't know. I didn't go to ump school, but the ump says something, and then it's like, okay, I got a strike or there's a ball, and then they explain who violated the clock.
All right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about some of the players here. Let's talk about let's just go into our confirmation bias right now and just start talking about guys. I mean, Yordan. I mean, were we right or were we right on Yordan, Gray?
We were so right. We were right. We might even been right. Honestly, with like Yordan, like, and this is a phenomenon I notice with fantasy baseball. I'm sure it happens in fantasy football and other sports, but with fantasy baseball or maybe just athletes in general, you have like a situation where it's like there's no news really. It's like it's spring training, and apply this in football to like it's training camp or whatever, and there's no real news. So everyone overreacts to like the smallest little thing, and it's like, Gray, are you worried that Yordan hasn't been in games yet? It's March 12th. It's like, I mean, I was concerned. I mean, I'm not above it. Like, I'm not above being, a nervous Nelly, as a person in the 1940s would say. I'm not above it. I mean, I totally understand where people are coming from. It did make me a little nervous that Yordan was, not in spring training games, but we have to realize that, like, you have a guy who's like all last year, he was so good last year, and he still and it's like he had the hand issue last year and he was still so good, but now suddenly, because like it's the second week of March, like he's not going to be good this season. It's like it was ridiculous for us to worry about I mean, he's so good. He's just so good. Like maybe he sits like he sat on Sunday. Maybe he sits like occasionally. Maybe he only plays 135 games versus 150. So take 15 games off of his stat line. So you lose out on, 2 homers and 10 runs and 10 steals. I mean, excuse me, 10 RBIs. Actually, you might lose out on 10 steals too because of the stuff we talked about earlier. But I mean, it's like there's no real, like, it's just a lack of news in March that gets people all so super nervous about like stuff that they shouldn't be worrying about. And it's sort of like the overreaction that's going on right now with like, only having 4 games played, that you have a situation where it's like, wow, I can't believe how good CJ Cron is. It's like, I mean, he was good last April. Come on, guys. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, I think Yordan's excellent, assuming he's healthy, which he seems to be healthy. He's going to be a top, 15 bat for the year. And the fact that I was in a main event league, me and Donkey, we drafted that main event team in Vegas. And the fact that we were able to get Yordan at 22 overall, it's just like, it's goofy, man. It just doesn't, like, people. So that even shows you, like, I mean, it doesn't necessarily, just because you have, $2,000 to spend on a league doesn't mean you know what you're doing necessarily. so don't take this the wrong way. But I mean, those people, you would assume you would weed out a lot of like novices at least, and those people still are like nervous about Yordan to the point where he falls to 22 overall. It was like, that's a gift for us to get Ohtani and Yordan in the same 15-team league. Like, what? Like, that doesn't, like, you should not, like, that should not be allowed. like someone should have stepped in and been like, no, I'm sorry, you have to draft Yordan before Gray and Donkey can. But yeah, I mean, this happens every year though. This is not new. It's not just Yordan either. It's a lot of players that you have like a situation where, things are just, it's just obvious that what's going to happen. Yet people get nervous. I mean, I got nervous.
Yeah. I mean, completely right. And I tend to be on the, like, unless it's meaningful, unless there is an injury, he's gone to an MRI, he's got an MRI, it's bad, or there's actionable information in regards to like where somebody's batting, that kind of information. I kind of just, I tend to just kind of push it aside. That's hurt me in the past before when somebody did have a real injury that I kind of marked off. But like this one seems so much like we just want him healthy. We just want him healthy for the start of the season. So any draft discount you got on Yordan, congratulations. I don't want to spend too much time patting ourselves on the back, so I'll just bring up 2 more guys real quick. And just, do you believe in them keeping what they've done and what we expected going, and that's Oneil Cruz and Taylor Ward. Taylor Ward's gotten off to a great start. He has a home run, a stolen base. He's hitting 500. Oneil Cruz has a home run, and maybe most importantly about Oneil Cruz, he has one strikeout through the first weekend, Gray. One strikeout. Right.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, I know you heard me because, well, I don't know. You might mute me when I'm talking, but I mean, you heard what I was saying, like with Oneil Cruz first of all, Taylor Ward's super. I mean, I wrote a sleeper post on him in December. I love Taylor Ward the entire preseason. I told everyone to draft him, but with Oneil Cruz, it was so obvious to me that I felt like I kept repeating myself with Oneil Cruz that, like, last September, after he had his own hitting coach come in, his strikeouts cut by like 10%. Like, he was better. It was like, why was it like, why was it like Chris Bryant or Anthony Rizzo or even Mike Trout? Why were they able to come up and like hit like 220 in their rookie seasons, and everyone was like able to see like through that and be like, okay, well, they can get better. They were just rookies. But Oneil Cruz was like, everyone was looking at Oneil Cruz and it was like, well, yeah, I mean, if you want the strikeouts, that's a great pick, Gray. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, why is he like set in stone for the rest of his life for what he did like his first 2 months as a rookie? Like, that's ludicrous. Like, that is so dumb. Like, he's so talented, and yet everyone was looking at him and they were like, yeah, if you don't mind the average drain, great pick by you. Like, what? Like, that's so, like, it's just so, I don't know, man. Like, and it's like people even now, like, for some reason, I don't know what it is. Honestly, it's baffling to me because I even feel like at this point, people are still waiting for the other shoe to drop with Oneil Cruz. Like, they still don't believe it. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, it's just like everyone is just convinced that he's a 35% strikeout rate guy. It's like, he doesn't have to be. Just because he was literally for like three of 4 months his rookie year, he wasn't even that in the final month of his rookie season. He had already started to get better. I don't know, man. It's baffling.
Yeah, I will say I didn't think the K rate would come down to this degree because, I mean, even when he improved, he was still a high 20s, tried 20% K rate guy. It wasn't like he was completely not striking out.
No,
like if he continues this, it's absurd.
I'm not saying he's suddenly a 5 to 7% strikeout guy. Yeah, I'm not saying he's Luis Reyes. I mean, it would be beautiful if he hit 400. It would be amazing if he hit 400 and he went 40-40. But you guys, like, honestly, like the amount of people that were out there convinced that he was going to be a 35% strikeout rate guy for his entire career, just simply because he did it for 2 to 3 months of his rookie season. It was like, I mean, in AAA last year, he had a 22% strikeout rate. Like, he wasn't, I mean, it's not like he was always this incredibly, like, bad contact, bad plate discipline guy. Like, that was not the case. He was just a rookie. That's it. I don't know, man. I honestly, it's surprising of how many smart, like, relatively, or people who I at least think are smart, think that like Oneil Cruz was always going to be like a 30+ strikeout rate guy. It's like, no, that's not the case. Hitters get better. Like, they get, like, not only was he not that in the minors, they just get better. Hitters get better. That's just what they do. So I don't know, man. It's weird. And honestly, it was one of the weirder things I saw this preseason, with like people's narratives that are just like so set in stone. It's just, it's kind of similar though to like how everyone is just so convinced that they need a top starter. They need to draft a top starter, and then like, Jeffrey Springs will be better than Corbin Burnes, and everyone's like, everyone like lose their head and it's like, oh my God, like what? Like, guys, I mean, this happens every year. This is not new. This is not new. It's like even the smartest of the smart fantasy players, you'll see them, write or tweet about stuff that you're like, okay, man, if you really think you need a top reliever, even after what happened with Raciel and Edwin Diaz, I mean, go for it. If you think you need it, go with God, man. Do what you have to do. But I mean, obviously the Edwin thing was a fluke injury. So, I mean, people write stuff off in their head and they're like, well, it was a fluke injury. That has nothing to do with drafting like, Josh Hader or Class A or something like, okay. If you say so, I'll just go ahead and draft the Alexis Diaz's of the world like 100 picks later. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of been on that, for a while. I mean, the echo chamber gets a hold of things and they stick. Like whether they're right or wrong, some things just stick because people start to hear it from everybody. They hear it from the right people and then they believe it. Now, one thing we've always been a proponent of is not drafting catchers high, and I still stand by that. One of the ones we mentioned specifically was Adley Rutschman because people were all over him in draft season. He was going as the second or third catcher off the board. I mean, he's been very good here to start the season, though. Gray, are you coming around on Adley as a whole? Let's ignore the catcher position thing for now, but as a catch within the position, is he starting to climb or still wait and see?
Well, see, I look at the catchers like this, and this goes for all positions. With position scarcity, it's a bad term that people should forget forever. But if you look at like Adley Rutschman and catchers just in general or any position, if you could take away their position and they're still good for fantasy, then that's good. Then that's fine. If you look at Adley Rutschman and you get like a 30 homer, 300 season with like 80 85 RBIs and 70 to 75 runs, that's a solid year. If that's probably top 50 type season. If you get that, then great. That's worth having and worth drafting in the top 50 if you get that. I don't think you're going to get it. I honestly, like, Camden Yards really stinks for hitting. It's his lineup's not bad. I mean, because they're just so crazy on the base paths. But I mean, if he gets like, I still feel like he's 20 homer hitter. If he hits 20 homers and hits 275, 285, that's a fine year. Is that better than, off the top of my head, say CJ Cron? Is that better than CJ Cron? No. Is CJ Cron much more available in, either drafts or in a trade now that we're in the season? Like, no. I think you can probably get CJ Cron for Adley Rutschman in most leagues, and people would be like, people would probably think the Adley side's better, but is it necessarily better? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't put like catchers on a pedestal. I think they're, if their stats are good for any position, then they're good. Then that's great. But I don't think Adley Rutschman's necessarily going to be good for every, for just like, a position generic, like utility, for instance. I don't think it's going to be like, a 30 homer season, 300 average from him. Maybe I'm wrong. It's a really small sample size, so I'm not really changing anything based off of, 4 games or 3 games, excuse me, for him. 4 games by the time people listen to this. But yeah, I don't think, I'm not going to change anything based off of that, but I think if he's a 17 to 22 homer guy with 275 average, 280, it's fine. I mean, it's nothing special. So yeah, I mean, I would probably be trading him away if I had him. I'm still not like, I'm still not crazy about him. It's fine. It's not necessarily anything that like you can't find, like you could back into that year from like, Jorge Soler could do a year like that. Like, it's not out of like the realm of possibilities that any middle of the order bat could have a 25 homer 270 year. I mean, Jorge Soler is going to hit for a lower average, but he's going to hit for more power. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a huge fan just because he's a catcher. If
Right.
that's not fair.
Okay. If I set the over under at 20 home runs, which would be higher than I think what we project or you'd projected for him in the preseason, you taking the over under?
I'm gonna take the under just by a hair. It's close. I see projections have him at 19 homers. So 19 is is below 20. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Sophocles. But yeah, I mean, I don't, I think I'd take the under just barely, but that's because of the park. I think the park's just so bad. Camden is just so bad,
Yeah.
Fenway is great. I mean, if he was playing 80 games in Fenway, I would like him more. I still wouldn't like him as much as people liked him in the preseason. I would like him more, though, if he was playing every game at Fenway. I mean, yeah, Fenway's a great park for a hitter.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We talked about CJ Cron a couple of times, just kind of bringing his name up. I mean, this is a guy I really was worried about. His second half was so awful, but it sounds like you're kind of just in on CJ Cron back to like what he did kind of last season, at least across the whole season. Was 260, 29 homers. Is that's kind of where you're seeing him? Is this just another fast start? What are you doing with CJ Cron? Would you move him? Are you holding? Because I still don't know if I trusted Gray even with the good start, which is nice to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at this point, until we see something different, I think we have to consider him a first half hitter and start looking to trade him in like June. I think I think he's been solid now. Like you mentioned already, he was solid last first half. He started off hot this year. I mean, until I see different, I'm going to assume he's a good April, May hitter, and then, start to look to trade him. I'm not necessarily sold on him for the full year, but if he gets to 15 homers by June, he's going to get to 27 homers on the year,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there might also be a mental aspect to where, like, let's just be honest, the Rockies aren't a very good team. So, like, maybe at the end of last season, it was just really hard to get up for every single game when the Rockies are floundering and they're doing moves for no reason that nobody understands constantly. So, that's just some random nonsense that probably doesn't mean anything. But I'm with you. I think I'm in on CJ Cron for the time being, but if I got the right offer, I'm not afraid to go ahead and move on from him if I have first base, corner infield covered. Speaking of corner infield being covered, Yoan Moncada, I mean, not exactly killing it, but better than what we saw last year. The approach at the plate seems like he's at least improving on what we saw from 2022. He's already got 2 homers, which is like a fifth of the way to what he had last year. Are you seeing a bounce back for Yoan Moncada, or is this just kind of the right moment in time and Houston is a good place for him to hit?
A sixth of the way to what he had last year.
Sorry, the sixth away. My bad.
Sorry.
Now who's 85?
I'm gonna put away my abacus now. Abacus. I can speak well. Abacus. Anyway, Moncada, I think he's right now is a small sample. I mean, he's striking out almost 37% of the time. Again, we're recording this on Monday. So if he goes like 4 for 4 with no strikeouts in his next game, you may look at this and the numbers could change dramatically because it's like such a small sample that it's hard to really like pinpoint what he's doing, necessarily right or wrong. I mean, his BABIP is 667. I mean, that's better than even his 2019 BABIP. I mean, it's like, everything's like ludicrous right now for Moncada. I do think I'm more interested now though than I was, 6 weeks ago. I'll say that. Like I was totally out on him, but like people were saying in the comments today on Razzball that like, they were like, oh, would you pick up like I want to say like a Nolan Gorman or Yoan Moncada? And I would say Moncada because at least, well, Gorman has playing time issues. But Moncada, like, maybe this is something. Like maybe this is a breakout. Like who knows? It's like I don't know necessarily yet. I don't think it is because like you can't just judge like a guy's season off of 4 games. So I mean, it was literally one series. Like if this one series happened in July after he hit like 210 for the first 3 months, you'd be like, who cares? It's like a hot potato, grab them if you want, but be ready to move on. But just because it happened in the first 4 games, it looks like, oh, the breakout is here. Like, well, I don't know, maybe, but I would at least pick him up just in case. Like, I'm not above, picking up a guy off of waivers just to see if the breakout is actually happening. I don't think it's happening, but there's not enough information yet to know whether it is or not.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the right way to approach it. And I mean, Moncada is one where there's even the narrative to kind of fit the bounce back. He was hurt last year. He said he never really got to 100%. Said he's feeling as good as he has in 3 years. Like all the narrative stuff is there to say, okay, maybe it is time for him to get back on track and become that like 25 home run hitter that he once was. So I'm with you that it's worth a pickup. See if it's there. Third base is such a just crapshoot anyways. Like you really, if you have an extra third baseman sitting around, it's not the end of the world. You could do a lot worse than picking up Moncada if he's available in your league. Bobby Witt Jr., I know this is one I was on, and I think you were off or like down the road a little bit.
Off.
Where are you at, Bobby Witt Jr.? I'm not worried. He's gonna be fine. Are you taking victory laps yet, Greg?
I am taking victory laps. I told everyone to avoid Bobby Witt Jr. You're welcome. If he starts hitting from game 5 on, don't look at me. I'm already out. No, I mean, I was out on him in the preseason. I told everyone to avoid him, but I can't take a victory lap yet. We'll see what happens. I mean, I honestly I have a lot of issues. I have a lot of problems with BWJ. Hopefully he's fine, but we'll see. I mean, like I've said in the past, like I get no, like it doesn't really help me if like the guys they say are bad end up being bad. Like my team should be good from the guys I draft. Like I don't need other people to be bad in order for my teams to be good. I'll do just fine with my, my Taylor Wards and Yordan Alvarez's of the world. If you do well with Bobby Witt Jr., then more power to you. But I do think Bobby Witt Jr. is in for a bad year. Like I've been saying that though all preseason. Like I haven't been in on Bobby Witt Jr. at all this year. I'm nowhere, like especially his ADP. His ADP was ludicrous at like, I think it ended up being like around 8 or 9 overall. Like think about 8 or 9 overall, like when like guys like, Vlad Jr. were going like 12th. Like what? Like I mean, I know the steals and power help. Anyway, long story short is I'm not taking a victory lap yet, but I will be soon.
Yeah, again, I am not worried. Of course, I am the Bobby Witt Jr. fan on the podcast. I am one of those people, as if you've been listening to the podcast, I had him at 7 in my rankings overall, so I absolutely love him. Look, the same thing we said for Yoan Moncada. If this happened in June and he had one hot series, we wouldn't say anything. Nothing would really change. Same thing happens here. If Bobby Witt Jr. had a cold series in June, just be like, yeah, it's fine. He'll be fine next week. Again, I'm assuming this can be fine for what it's worth. He didn't exactly start off last year very strong either, so he could just be a guy who ramps up. He did have a slow start because he didn't really play in the WBC because the American team was absolutely stacked. So maybe it's just a bit of a ramp up period because he didn't really have a spring training and he didn't really play in the WBC. I would still be trading for him, especially if you get somebody who's listening to Gray and panicking a little bit. All right, Gray, were we just a little bit early on Jonathan India and Alec Bohm? Are they ready? Is it time?
I think yes. I think yes. With India specifically, I think he was just injured last year. Like I think in retrospect, we're gonna look back on last year and be like, yeah, we should have just ignored it. Like I think he just had a bad year because it was just like he had injuries compounding themselves, and it just was like, and he never really got into a groove. Boy, you got to prove your love to me. Sorry. I have Madonna Tourette's. I don't know. Alec Bohm, I think is good. I think he's always been good. I just don't think he has like huge power upside. And all you need to do is look at like Yelich to see like how hard it is to change like the plane of your hitting plane. Like it's not easy to change a launch angle. So I think Alec Bohm is good. He's always been good. I don't think we're going to get like a huge power surge from him, because I think he's more of a line drive hitter, but I think he's a good line drive hitter. I like India and Bohm. I like them both. Actually, I was willing to go back in on India. Unlike guys like Jose Barrios, where I made a shrine to the devil for him in my office. Like Jonathan India, I was back in on this year. I don't think I actually drafted him anywhere, but I would have. I was willing to. And Bohm I liked. I don't think I drafted him either, but I did like Bohm.
Yeah, I think I was kind of in that same camp. It was kind of a, do I need that position? And like, did he fall into the right spot for me? And I think I have like one share of India, and I might have a couple of Bohm just because third base was so bad that like just getting Alec Bohm to give you 280 and counting stats was acceptable at some point with some upside. He did raise his launch angle a little bit last year, so I'm hoping maybe there's a little bit to continue, but until we really see otherwise, I'm pretty much with you. He's going to be an average. He's going to give you some home runs. I think he probably hits more than 13 that he hit last year, but I don't know that that's a significant increase. And he's going to give you the counting stats because he's in the right part of the order. India, I want to say I'm with you that we kind of ignore last year and we move forward as like a 2010 guy, maybe more because of all the stolen base opportunities now. But I guess the point for me is like if he doesn't improve on what he did in 2021, which was 21, 12, 269, you're going to get a plus on your investment this year. But is that overly special? Like, is it something to chase? I guess, would you rather have like India, Bohm, or Yoan Moncada if we're talking about those three? Because those are kind of the names we've thrown out so far.
I think India is the most interesting, probably because of Cincy mostly. But India's like, I think India could give you like a 20 homer, 7 steal, 270 season. Bohm feels like a 17 homer, 12 steal, 290. And Moncada, I really don't know what to get from Moncada at this point. I mean, he's just like, and he may as well be wearing the Riddler's leotards with like question marks all over him, because I don't know what to do with Moncada. I mean, you can get anything from like a 30 homer, 15 steal, 280 season from Moncada to anything from like to 10 homers, 2 steals, 220. I don't know, man.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's India, Bohm, Moncada, and then for what it's worth, I would have him in that same order. Let's talk about a couple of the pitchers who struggled. I mean, let's start with our boy Alek Manoah. He struggled. It wasn't a great opening. Are you worried about Manoah at all? I know it was one that like you and me versus Rudy pretty much all preseason. Rudy hating him, you and me being like, that's ridiculous. We're still on that. You're still on board with me, right?
No, I've abandoned ship. I've totally abandoned you, Beaton. No, I'm concerned about Manoah. Not to the point. I'm not selling low. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like looking to move him for a sack of potatoes. Or Andrew Chafin, who looks like a sack of potatoes. I don't have as much confidence in Manoah. I'll be honest, but I'm not like I'm not abandoning ship to the point where I'm like selling him for anything. So we'll see. Hopefully my my nervousness is overcome after another start or two, and he's back on the good ship lollipop with me and Yordan and Joe Ryan and Jeffrey Springs. But we'll hope. I'm hoping to be back on Team Manoah, but I'm a little nervous.
I'm not. I will 100% take every single discounted share of Alek Manoah after his first start and laugh all the way to the bank. And if it goes wrong, so be it. I mean, my eyes tell me he's a good pitcher. The numbers say he's a good pitcher. All the velocity, all the break is still in line with what he did last year. I'm not concerned. I will buy low. The Cardinals just had an amazing opening series against the Blue Jays. And that's what I'm writing that one off as. Next up is Sandy Alcantara. You and I were universally off him at his ADP, but are the Alcantara owners in for a very rude awakening, Gray?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have been any more off of Alcantara coming into this year. He was like my number one guy who I was rolling my eyes whenever he went off the board in the first 3 to 4 pitchers. I mean, he was going in some leagues. He was going before Spencer Strider. I was like, okay, okay, guy, you think so? I mean, if that's really what you think, good luck. Yeah, I don't know. The fact that Alcantara was going as high as he was, I think shows you that even in the best of fantasy leagues, you still have a few suckers at the table.
A lot, because it was ADP. ADP had him as a top 3 pitcher, Gray. It wasn't one or two people. This was universal. He was considered a top 5, top 3 guy. I had him outside my top 10.
And honestly, if you have a situation where even if he has another great ERA year, and say has a 2.5 ERA and a 0.95 whip and 170 Ks, or actually 160 Ks, and 190 innings, or whatever the stats end up being at the end of the day, and you get 10 wins, you're still gonna be like, oh man, I don't know, maybe I overdrafted a little bit. I mean, you could probably get that from I don't know. I mean, there's so many pitchers. You're Sandy Alcantara was going in a range, whereas you have to get where he was going. You have to guarantee me 220 Ks and and the ratios to go along with it. It's the same ratios as what he's giving, but you'd have to guarantee me 220 Ks. I know wins are fickle, but the fact that he was going at a range where Spencer Strider is going to give you possibly 250 Ks, and he's on a better team, so better chance for wins. Are the ratios going to be that different that you think? It just never made Sandy Alcantara's draft spot never made any sense. It never did. At no point. He was always I ranked him last year as I think I want to say the 18th starter off the board, and I liked him a lot. I was saying to draft him last year as the 18th starter. Literally nothing has changed for him from when he was the 18th best starter to this year becoming the quote unquote third best starter. Nothing changed.
Yeah, completely with you. As we said during the top pitchers podcast, Like 2021 is a very reasonable expectation for what he's going to do this year. He was 27th on the player radar as a starting pitcher. Like that's very much in the realm of possibility. Maybe it's top 20 because the ratios improved from a 3.19 to a a 2.8 or lower potentially even. But like a 3.19 is still really hard to do across the major league season. Like a 3.19 is a great ERA, but that's a top 25 pitcher without the wins instead of a top 5 pitcher or the number 1 pitcher overall like he was because of the innings and strikeouts that he had in 2022. Like it was always a little different. Now the number 1 pitcher, we agreed he's the number 1 pitcher, but he struggled out the gate. Corbin Burnes got hit hard by, not hard, I'm not gonna say he got hit hard, but he had runs put up on him by the Cubs of all teams. Gray, any concern on Corbin Burnes, or can we move on?
Nah, I think we can move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same. Kodai Senga. Did you watch him? What do you think, Gray? I mean, this is one of your guys. Where are you at on him?
Yeah, no, I watched him. I was much more bullish on him going into the start. I'm a little concerned. I'll be honest. Like maybe it was nerves a little bit, and I don't want to overestimate or underestimate how much the first major league start maybe was playing into the nerves, but he didn't really seem like he knew where the ball was going a ton. And now against the Marlins, that works. That is that's a way to pitch well. Against the Marlins, you cannot know where the ball is going and still do okay. Once you get against teams with actual like hitters who can like take a pitch, I don't know, man. I'm concerned about Senga. I'll be honest. I think he could strike out 200 guys in and he could still get like 15 wins. Like I still think like everything's going to be okay. Like as far as like draft value, like I still think he's still going to return draft value. And probably even be better. Like, if he gonna be like a great ratio guy, I don't know, man. He might have some blow ups here and there. Like he could potentially put a couple guys on in a wrong situation. I think his whip could be over 1.32 potentially. I think the ERA might be maybe in the 3.7 range. Like I don't think he's going to necessarily be a top 20 starter as I was convinced of going into like watching him. I think he's probably a little bit more iffy than I expected, but I think it's still going to be fine. Like I think he's going to be a solid number 3 starter. I just think I had expectations that he could potentially be a good number 2. So I don't know if he's going to be a good number 2 anymore. But yeah, I'm still holding. I'm not selling because it was one start, and he even settled down as the game went on. So maybe it was just nerves a little bit. I don't know, but I'm a little bit more concerned than I was like last week this time.
Yeah, I mean, he had almost a clean 3rd and 4th, and then he struck out his only batter in the 5th inning that he faced. So I feel like it was a nerves thing, and he still got through it. Now he was in a lot of trouble those first 2 innings and kind of got out of it. The line is flattering compared to like how it looked within the first 2 innings: 5 1/3, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts. I'm actually encouraged by this. It sounds like you're going in the opposite direction. I'm encouraged because he got it together and looked fine as the game went on. But like watching the forkball go against the major league hitters and them just like looking like they have no idea how to hit it, I actually think the K rate is higher than I thought, because I was thinking like he's gonna be like a 23-24% K rate guy. Maybe he's like, he kind of sits in that range. But if he's going to get Ks on the forkball like he was getting in this game, he could be a 28% or higher, even potentially K guy. So I think I'm actually more encouraged and looking to buy if somebody's kind of worried about the shaky 1st and 2nd innings. Now, if they're looking at their numbers, they're not concerned right now.
Right. And there was one at bat and I was like, I was half watching because I was making soup. Who sounds like more of an old man than me? But I believe it was on 4 pitches that he walked. It may not have been 4 pitches, but he walked Jacob Stallings. I think it was to lead off one of the innings, whatever it was. It was like I just remember thinking like, how do you walk Jacob Stallings? like maybe you know what, and I don't have the box score in front of me. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but there was some situation where it's like, oh my god, like you can't walk this guy. Like that's like that shows to me like you're just like you're unable to throw a strike if you're walking a guy like that, because like that is the type of hitter where you could throw them anything, it doesn't matter. Like I could pitch to Jacob Stallings. Like he can't do anything with a 60-mile-per-hour fastball. Like it doesn't matter if it's like if you could throw well or not. Like Jacob Stallings is just like you can't ever walk Jacob Stallings because all you have to do is throw a strike in order to get him out. Like that's literally all you have to do. And if you can't do that, that's concerning to me. That's all. I'm a little concerned. I want to be back in, full-throated, back in loving Senga. So hopefully the next start is, a little bit more confirming of my previous love.
Yeah, I actually think it will be. And again, I think if you can buy low on him or maybe buy it like what ADP was, which was already a value if you were going off of Gray or Eyes ranks, I think that you can trade for him right now and still get those numbers. The one he made Yuli Gurriel look awful, and Yuli Gurriel does not swing and miss very often. Yuli Gurriel threw his bat halfway down the third baseline trying to hit the splitter forkball. So I'm going out there. Chris Bassitt does not have nasty stuff. Are you worried about Chris Bassitt, Gray? He's always been a consistent, ratios guy. He got to Toronto. People were like, oh, he's going to get some wins. He'll be like basically what he was last year. Are you worried?
I am, yeah. I'm pretty concerned about Chris Bassitt. I want to say his velocity was down. He didn't really have much velocity to give as it was, and yeah, I'm concerned about him, man. I absolutely am. I mean, I would try and hold him in most leagues because usually he's a solid, number 3 where you can have like he's a good ratio bat. But if he's not pitching, for good ratios, then not good. He's not a great strikeout guy. So if he's not getting good ratios, then what are we doing with him? So yeah, I'm a little concerned with Bassitt, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I am too. I was concerned coming into the year with the velocity potentially down. It was down in the spring. And for whatever reason, he's not throwing the slider. I don't know if that's a move from the slider to the cutter, and that's the change he's made. But when there's a pitch mix change and it starts off badly, that is something I tend to pay attention to. The velocity is not great, but he has been ramping up, and he started velocity low last year. So I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass on the velocity for a couple more starts, see if it continues to tick up. But I am worried about Chris Bassitt. I think in the shallow leagues you can go ahead and cut him. In a standard league, I think I'm holding on to see if that velocity returns. And he can give you kind of what you were expecting. But if the velocity doesn't return, he doesn't get the slide. He doesn't start throwing the slider again. I'm definitely going to have concerns, and he's going to be on the top of the cut list if he doesn't get it together. Let's move on to some news here, Gray. Luis Urias is out for 2 months. Joey Wiemer is going to get a shot. And, I mean, are you interested in Joey Wiemer? And what kind of leagues are you looking to pick him up?
Yeah, no, I am in all leagues, depending on needs, I guess. But he does have like Joey Wiemer actually is a funny situation with Joey Wiemer. I was in the hospital last week with kidney stones. It was real bad. I'm fine now, but it was like everyone was wishing me a happy opening day, and I was like, I'm on so much morphine. I hate life right now. I was in bad shape. But anyway, and I didn't have to stay overnight at the hospital. It was anyway, long story short is Jeff, podcast host, previous podcast host for the Razzball podcast, your predecessor. I asked him to. I had my keeper league draft, my NL only keeper league draft drafted last week when I was in the hospital. So I texted Jeff and I was like, "Hey, are you available? I really need someone to draft for me." So he was like, he was nice enough to do it. He drafted a solid NL only team, and it's a 10-team NL only keeper. So I have good keepers. Long story short, anyway, he drafted Joey Weimer. On morphine then on like day one of the opening day. And by the way, people who read my my opening day roundup, I was pretty high when I wrote that. So, take it with a grain of salt. But when I was very stoned on, different Quaaludes, I was looking at my NL team that Jeff drafted, and I was like, I feel like Nick Martinez is better on my team than Joey Weimer. I'm going to drop Joey Weimer. So, and then he got called up literally within hours of me dropping Joey Weimer. And then Nick Martinez got rocked in his first start. And then Laura, who's a writer for our site, picked up Joey Weimer before I could. So I was just like, that was like the worst turn of events. I was like, yeah, I didn't even have the heart to tell Jeff that I screwed up his draft. He was just like, he texted me, he's like, Joey's up, Joey Weimer's up. It's like, good for your NL team. I'm like, yeah. Good for my NL. I'm such a moron, man. Anyway, Joey Weimer's got solid power and speed. I'm a little bit worried he could hit 210. Potentially. He looks like he might have an average, be a bit of an average drain. And I don't love that he's hitting ninth. So in shallower mixed leagues, I mean, I'm fine with the pickup because I love upside, of course. So I'm fine with picking him up. But the Brewers have they have like 12 million outfielders. So I don't know if Weimer struggles at all, he may not even stay up. I mean, they have Frelick. Let's see what happens there in the minors. Weimer's solid though as a pickup right now for speed and power. I like it. I just, I wouldn't be, like dropping anyone too important for him.
Yeah, I think that's good spot for, what you're looking at. He has the upside to be useful in every league, but there's definitely concern with where he's hitting in the batting order, the job security, whether he plays every day. That's all part of the combination here with Joey Weimer. So it is what it is. He had 31 steals last year across two AA and AAA. He had 21 home runs. So he has the power speed combo. It just kind of depends on the depth of your league and your team roster, whether you have somebody that you can drop to pick up the upside play in Joey Weimer or not. Now, if you had Luis Urias, it's very nice, kind of fill in potentially for at least the short term. Joey Bart is going to be out with the middle back. Are you interested in Blake Sabol as a potential pickup here, Gray?
Yeah, I liked Blake Sabol even before this. Now Blake Sabol is going to be playing left field and catching at the same time. he's really going to have to be fast with that pitch clock. I think Sabol is probably, I think we might have been a little bit out in front of our skis a little bit with how much we like Sabol in the preseason. I think he's going to be fine for a catcher in like a deep league. I don't think he's going to be anything that special, to be honest. I mean, he's fine. Like, don't get me wrong, but he's okay. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. If you need a catcher and you're just kind of looking around, he's fine. It's nice to get a catcher who doesn't have to sit behind the plate or that has another position they can go play. But it's not like, you're not getting the second coming of, I don't know, Adley Rutschman here in Blake Sabol. Robbie Ray's out 4 to 6 weeks. Chris Flexen seems like he's going to take his rotation spot. are you interested in Chris Flexen outside of, the only leagues?
Yeah, Flexen actually is for me. This week, I think you could probably even get away with this in shallower leagues next week. But for this week, for Fab, I put $1 or $2 on Matt Brash because if Flexen is bad, which he could be because he's not a great pitcher. If Flexen is bad and Robbie Ray has a setback, Matt Brash is right there, man. he's like flashing red lights. Hello, there, Matt Brash is here. So, in deeper leagues for fab beds, because this was the week I think to look at Matt Brash, because if Flexen is terrible in his first start, the chorus is going to get a lot louder for Matt Brash next week. And then his fab bids are going to go really high. So this week I was able to get him for $3 for out of 1,000. So Matt Brash is interesting right now as a stash, a Brash stash. Woo! Flex is terrible though. I wouldn't mess with him.
Yeah, only leagues if you just need maybe ratios. I mean, I don't even know if he's going to give you that. Again, he's not an amazing pitcher. He's been successful in keeping his ERA, in the mid to low or underneath 4, I guess I'll say, since he's come back from Korea. But the K's just aren't there to really support him being anything other than an only league play. Mackenzie Gore pitched well. Are you interested? Are you picking him up across the board? Are you waiting and see? Where are you at on Mackenzie Gore here, Gray?
Yeah, no, I think Mackenzie Gore is actually pretty interesting because he was a top prospect, not that long ago with the Padres, and then he got derailed with injuries. But I mean, he has less than 100 innings pitched in his career for the majors, so he could easily put it together still. He's still young. What is it? He's 24 years old. He's got great upside. I like Mackenzie Gore as a flyer. I wouldn't drop anyone too valuable. Before we were talking about how we were worried about Chris Bassitt, and I think someone in the comments asked, drop Bassitt for Gore. I mean, that's tough. I'm not willing to, and this is for a shallower league, obviously. But I'm not really ready to do that yet. But I would try and get Gore on a team in case he is able to break out, because his command is still wonky, so there's going to be potential for blow-ups, but I do like him.
Yeah, I think that's well said. He's definitely got some command issues. He had a walk in every inning of his first start. That's not exactly what you want to see, but he had 6 Ks and 5 1/3, and the stuff looked good as far as that goes. So if you just get some control, there could be the breakout here. I think it depends on the type of league you're in and the type of team build. If you're chasing Ks, Mackenzie Gore over Chris Bassitt, but in general, I think Chris Bassitt still's likely owned over Mackenzie Gore just for the overall package that he likely gives you if he gets the velocity back on his pitches. Jack Flaherty, he had a great game. He had a no-hitter. I believe he had, what was it, 10 Ks, I think? It was a great start, Gray. This was somebody that I like taking a shot on here in the preseason. He had 4 Ks. That's way off. I don't know where that came from. He had 4 Ks, walked a ton of people, though. Where are you at on Jack Flaherty? Are you in because he went 5 innings of no earn? Are you out because he walked 7 guys? Where are you at on Jack Flaherty?
Yeah, the latter. Yeah, I mean, it's you can't walk that many guys and have my interest. Let alone, I think his velocity was down 5 miles per hour. I don't know what happened with Jack Flaherty, but he looks cooked, bro. He looks cooked. He looks so a mess. I mean, it's so bad. I don't know what happened. It stinks too, man, because he was so good. That 1 year, what was it? 2021? No, 2020, 2019. Yeah, he was really good the year when everyone was hitting home runs. That's weird. Anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. I think he's cooked though. I wouldn't go anywhere near Flattery. He looks he looked as cooked. He looks as cooked as the other Cardinal starter, Adam Wainwright. Not his vocal skills though, man. He can really belt out a tune, huh?
Oh no, I thought it was pretty bad. It was awful. It was so bad, Greg. Well, don't just never have players sing ever again. Let's just put that rule in place. And Flaherty, like his last spring start, he was throwing 93. I thought the velocity was coming back through spring training. He was ramping up. This start, he was at 91. That's not good. Like until I see this velocity ramp up, I'm probably not rolling him out there. It's good to see that he was able to avoid some bats even with the decreased velocity, but he was nibbling all over the place. That's why you get the walks. To some extent, if I had watched Toronto put up 12 runs in the first two games, I don't know that I would have been overly excited to throw the ball over the plate to him either. But this is not. It was not a great outing. I know I kind of misconstrued that off the top. I'm sorry about that, but no, probably out on that one. Let's talk pins and pickups, Gray. We're running a little bit long, and we got to get out of here.
Yeah, okay.
So, on the pin side, there's a few that changed over. We're looking at like the Pierce Johnson, whether Andrew Chafin is potentially coming into a role, Reynaldo Lopez, and the White Sox. I'll let you talk about kind of those three, and then we'll get into a few others.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping in deeper leagues. I grabbed Lamet as a backup for Bard. I think I was probably wrong on that one. I think who knows? I don't know. But Pierce Bronson. Pierce Bronson. That's what I have to call him from now on. Pierce Bronson looks like the guy in Colorado. He's got his ratios are 007. I think Johnson and who knows? If Lamet gets the next save in Colorado, then I guess that could quickly change. Like I don't think it's necessarily set in stone on what Bud Black is doing. Well, Bud Black, nothing's set in stone. His brain is just mush. It doesn't. Nothing Bud Black does make sense. Chafin and McGow, I think, are probably that's probably a closer committee for now until we see something different. I think Chafin is probably going to be in there if they face tough lefties, even though he has no real lefty righty splits. Like it doesn't make sense to have him face lefties, but the Diamondbacks are a terrible team, and that manager, Torrey from MTV's Real World Challenge has been he's been terrible forever. So I don't know. And Reynaldo Lopez looks good. He's probably the guy I would go to for now, but again, like if he pitches poorly this week, Graveman pitches well, that could switch really fast. So I'm not putting a ton of fab on any of these guys. Like these guys could all switch out by next week this time.
Yeah. So you mentioned fab. Are you putting more than 10% on any of these guys?
No, God, no. No, people are out of their minds with fab. Like I'm not sure what people are thinking, but like anyone, like I saw someone bid like $400+ out of 1,000 on AJ Puck. Like, you lose your mind, dude. Like, if you literally fallen and hitting your head, like, what are you doing, man? Like, seriously, like, don't do that.
I think I'm actually around 10%. Like, I'm fine putting 10% if you need saves on pick your random guy that you think's getting the saves. I think I would probably go Reynaldo, then Pierce Johnson. Of the guys we've talked about, I think the McHugh Chafin goes back and forth. The other closer situations we're going to bring up: Seattle, Andres Munoz, and Paul Sewell. We kind of assumed it was Sewell, but they said it was going to be a committee, and it looks like they're sticking to that. Danny Jimenez and Trevor May. Trevor May got a lot of kind of buzz towards the end of draft season, and then Danny Jimenez comes in and just kills it all. And then Will Smith, Jose Leclerc. We all kind of thought it was Leclerc, and then Will Smith gets the opportunity, but Leclerc did throw the 9th inning in the first game of the season, just wasn't a save. Where are you at on these three situations?
Yeah, I know. Well, someone brought up a good point in I forget where it was, but they brought up a good point that Will Smith, was the closer for Bochy back in San Francisco. So I kind of feel like Will Smith might be the closer now. I'm not. I'm kind of surprised at myself for not realizing that sooner. But that does seem like a narrative that could potentially track. And I never really understood the Leclerc thing anyway, because like he wasn't good last year, and now they have a new manager. It never really made sense, Leclerc. So I think Will Smith might actually be the closer in Texas. The other ones I think are probably still committees, like May, Jimenez, and Munoz, Seawald. I think they're probably going to be like 60-40 splits, and I don't know who the 60 is and who the 40 is.
Yeah, that's completely fair, and I'm with you. I think those are still splits. I mean, they told us as much. I wouldn't expect it to change unless somebody really dominates, and all those pitchers are fairly solid pitchers as well. So I don't necessarily expect any of them to collapse in on themselves. I will say Will Smith himself wasn't exactly great last year either. So it wasn't like, oh, well, Will Smith came in with, good numbers and he's going to take it. So I think that one could go back and forth. But, Bochy does seem like the type of guy that goes on track record and who's done it for me. So I could definitely see just kind of the narrative picking up and that working. Real quick, Gray, we just have a few minutes left. Who are some pickups that you're looking at if people are out there in daily leagues and their waivers haven't ran?
Ellie Hurias Montero, the third baseman on the Rockies. I'm sort of interested in there, probably mostly because he plays in Coors. I still like all the guys who I've liked, coming into the year. Like none of that really has changed after like a weekend of games. Like I'm still totally interested in like Oscar Colas and Kerry Carpenter and who else? Like guys who I liked like 4 days ago. I still like them, like Therio Estrada and Logan O'Hoppe and who else? Like Brandon Donovan, I love. I loved him going into the season. I still love him. Volpe looks like he's going to steal 120 bags. Spencer Steer, I like. Riley Green. Like nothing's really. Trace Thompson had we didn't really talk about him. He had a 3-homer game. I don't think that really changes anything. I think I still kind of like James Outman more, but if they're both playing, I kind of like both of them. I don't mind either of them if they're playing. So yeah, I still would even like, I'm getting a lot of comments about people already banding ship with Kalenic. They're already moving off of him. I don't know, man. I probably would give him another 2 weeks. I mean, if you've gone this far, give him 2 weeks to do something, So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you drafted him, you were hoping that it's going to click and like just give him a second. Although, it just may not be. It may not be the year for it to click, and it may never. I guess some of the guys that I'll throw out, Adam Duvall. It was a guy that I kind of thought was one of those power bats that you could grab late in your drafts. One of the very few because there weren't a lot of power bats late in drafts. Mitch Garver. He only has one started catcher, but if you have room to wait till he gets catcher eligibility and you listen to Gray and I and you waited at catcher, Mitch Garver could potentially give you catcher one numbers if you just wait for him to get your eligibility. I'm with you on Trace Thompson. He's in a split and he's on the lesser side of a split in general, so I don't think there's really a whole lot there. Jake Fraley's a guy that was being drafted in a lot of leagues, but if not, I think that just the Cincinnati, whatever the narrative is there for him to look all right. And then Zach Eflin, I'm just going to throw it out for our boy Whip, who was all over Zach Eflin all dressed. He looked good in his first start, at least with the adjusted pitch mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. And the guys in New York, McGill and Peterson, I like them too. Syndergaard looked good. I wouldn't ever underestimate the Dodgers' ability to take a terrible pitcher and make them great. It's not never happen. The Dodgers have some magic pixie dust when it comes to starters. So, anything the Dodgers are throwing out there, I'm even kind of interested in seeing what Grove does, because like the Dodgers can do no wrong when it comes to anything. Yeah, I don't know. Kyle Muller his final line looked okay, but he didn't actually look very good. I would probably ignore that for now in most leagues, in most mixed leagues at least.
Yeah, that sounds good, Gray. If you have any specific questions, you can always find us on Twitter. I am at RazBeaton. Gray is, of course, the owner of the at Razball account. Subscribe, listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. If you want to watch us, you can go out on youtube.com/RazballFantasy. Subscribe to those, throw their comments in there. We'll answer them out there as well. Until next week, Gray, here's another week of baseball. Let's go.
Lates.